It was the start of deer season, and I'd been scouting a ridge out in the southeastern part of the county for about 2 weeks. It's state land, but it's way off the beaten path, and the old logging roads that cut through it are just barely passable with a lifted 4x4. I don't know many people who hunt that far in, unless they're hard up, which suited me just fine. I wanted quiet. I wanted space. I wanted something different. Most guys like to hunt in the morning, but I've always preferred the night. I've got a thermal scope I use to scan from my stand. The laws are kind of gray about hunting nocturnal deer with thermals, but as long as you're not spotlighting, the wardens don't say much in our part of the state. I wasn't worried. I parked about a mile from my stand just before dusk and hiked in with my gear, my .308, thermals, pack, and enough water and snacks to sit until sunrise if I had to. The woods felt good that night. Cool breeze, no bugs, just the distant rustling of branches and a few owl calls. I set up in my tree stand 20 feet off the ground, overlooking a little clearing by an old, mostly dried creek bed. That spot had good sign: tracks, scat, scrape marks. I'd seen a nice 8-point buck on the trail cam a few nights before. The first couple of hours passed with nothing unusual. I scanned the clearing with my scope every now and then, saw a couple of raccoons, a rabbit. Once, just before 10, I saw a pair of coyotes moving along the edge of the trees. They didn't come close. Then, around midnight, everything just stopped. If you've spent enough time in the woods, you know what normal silence feels like. There's always something: wind through the leaves, distant frogs, the occasional rustle of small creatures. But this was different. The air felt thick, weighted, like the woods were holding their breath. I remember slowly turning my head, listening. Nothing. No owls. No crickets. Even the trees seemed to have gone still. It was like stepping into a room right after someone dies. I scanned the tree line with my scope again, slower this time. The thermal view lit up the world in heat signatures, blue and black for the cold, white and yellow for warmth. I panned across the empty clearing, and then something caught my eye at the far edge, near the base of a hill. At first, I thought it was another deer, but it wasn't standing like one. It was low to the ground, almost completely on all fours. Pale white heat signature. Human-sized. Crawling. No, scuttling. Forward like a spider with broken legs. I blinked and adjusted the focus. It looked wrong somehow, like it had too many joints in its limbs, and it moved with this unnatural, jerky rhythm. I froze. I've seen bears. I've seen cougars. I've even seen weird-looking sick deer that looked like they had mange. But this wasn't any animal I recognized. It stopped moving and just stayed there, crouched, like it was watching. Then it turned its head. I can't explain it in a way that does it justice. Even through the thermal, I felt that thing lock eyes with me. No eyes to see, just a blob of white heat, but I knew it was looking directly at me, like it could see right through the scope, through the tree cover, right up into the stand. It tilted its head. The motion was too sharp, too quick. Then its mouth opened, and it made a sound that didn't belong in the woods. It was like a scream and a hiss mixed together. Shrill, warbling, and loud enough to make my ears ring. I should have climbed down and left. I should have turned tail and run, gear be damned. But I didn't. I did something dumber. I fired. My scope jumped from the recoil, and I chambered another round as fast as I could, eyes fixed on the thermal. The thing had dropped to the ground, collapsed in a heap. A bright splash of heat lit the dirt where I'd hit it. I held my breath. Then it moved. It twitched, jerked, then rose onto all fours again. Slower this time. One of its limbs dragged behind it like I'd hit bone. It turned back toward me, let out another screech, and started running, straight for the stand. I panicked. I don't remember lowering my rifle. I don't remember anything but the pounding of my heartbeat and the sound of branches breaking. It was fast, way too fast for something that size, especially injured. It closed the distance between the hill and the stand in seconds, and I scrambled to unclip my safety harness. Before I could even climb down, I heard it hit the tree trunk. The impact shook the stand. I dropped my rifle, completely slipped from my hands, and clung to the metal bar as the whole setup rocked beneath me. It started climbing. Whatever it was, it dug its hands, no, claws, into the bark and started pulling itself upward with terrifying speed. I fumbled for my sidearm, a Throint 5.7 I keep on my belt, but my hands were shaking so bad I could barely get it free. When its head crested the platform edge, I saw its face for the first time. White, stretched skin, like it had been starved for weeks. No lips, just rows of teeth and eyes that reflected no light. It opened its mouth again, and I swear to God it was smiling. I emptied the revolver. 5 shots. 2 hit it in the head. I watched flesh burst from the impact, but it didn't scream this time. It just fell. Straight down. I heard it hit the ground below with a sickening thud. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I sat there in silence for what must have been an hour. Eventually, I got the nerve to climb down, shaking the whole way. My legs barely worked. I kept the last round chambered and pointed at the spot where it had landed. But when I reached the bottom, it was gone. No body, no blood, just disturbed dirt, deep claw marks in the bark, and the sound of wind returning to the trees. Like nothing had happened at all. I gathered my things in silence. I didn't bother with the rest of my gear. I left the stand, the pack, even the trail cam. Just took my sidearm and flashlight and started back toward the truck. That walk was the longest mile of my life. Every branch snap, every rustle sent my heart into overdrive. I didn't look behind me. I didn't dare. I didn't sleep when I got home. I just sat in the garage with the lights on, gun on the table in front of me, waiting for something, anything, to explain what had happened. Nothing ever did. The next day, I drove back out there. Daylight. I brought a friend with me and told him I'd seen a bear or maybe a mountain lion. He laughed, said I was lucky to get out in one piece. I didn't correct him. We found the tree. We found the claw marks. But that was it. The trail cam was fried. SD card was melted inside like it had been microwaved. My buddy said it must have shorted out. But that doesn't happen to cams rated for 20 below zero. My stand was bent like something heavy had jumped on it from above. There was no blood, no fur, no tracks. Just dead silence in the trees again. I haven't gone back since. I sold the rifle, gave the thermal to a guy I knew up north, told him I didn't need it anymore. Some nights, I still hear the sound it made, that scream that didn't come from any living thing. And every time I close my eyes, I see that pale shape crawling through the dark, limbs moving all wrong, face grinning as it climbs toward me. I don't know what I saw in those woods, but I know it wasn't a deer, and I know I didn't kill it. We didn't grow up soft. Our family has worked the same patch of land for 3 generations, about 60 acres of thick woods and brush in the southern foothills, right at the edge of what the state still calls protected wilderness. My brother Cal and I were raised hunting squirrel and whitetail with our dad by the time we were 10. By 15, we were cleaning deer blindfolded. It's what we knew, what we still know. It's why what happened last fall hasn't sat right with me ever since. It started with the chickens. Cal called me one morning around 7, voice tight. Something got in the coop, he said. Ate them all. I asked if it looked like a fox. No, worse, real bad. I drove over, and as soon as I stepped out of the truck, the smell hit me. I've gutted more animals than I can count. I've cleaned barns after dead calves bloated in the summer heat. But this was different. It was rot. Old wet, stuck in the nostrils rot, the kind that clings to your tongue. The coop was wrecked, not just torn open, shredded. The wire fencing had been peeled back like someone had reached in and twisted it barehanded. The wood slats had deep gashes like claws had torn through them, but uneven and wide, big. Whatever did it didn't eat for hunger. It ate for hate. There wasn't much left of the birds, blood everywhere, some bones. Feathers stuck to the trees, like something had shaken them before ripping them apart. Cal stood beside me, arms crossed. You think coyotes? I didn't. Coyotes will kill a bird and drag it. They don't rip apart 10 at once. They don't smear blood across the side of your barn like a paintbrush. And they sure as hell don't leave a pile of entrails in a neat little spiral. Still, I nodded. Maybe. A big one or a pack. Cal didn't look convinced either. We spent the day putting up new fencing, welding the coop shut with a reinforced lock and steel mesh. But the whole time, the woods felt off. Too quiet. You spend your life around trees. You know the difference between peaceful and watchful. This was the latter. Like the whole forest had gone stiff. That night, we decided to hunt. Not for game, but to see what was out there. We packed up our rifles, He carried his .270 Rhodey Winchester. I brought the .308 bolt action I'd had since high school. We both had scopes, not thermal, just high-res glass with good range. Sunset was creeping down over the trees as we hiked out to a ridge behind his property that looked over a low gully. It was an old deer trail, one we used to sit over in our teens. We figured if something was moving through at night, it'd come from there. The woods were still. Too still. We sat about 20 feet apart, back-to-back tree trunks, rifles resting on our knees, eyes peeled. The sky turned violet, then dark. Then the moon came up. That's when we smelled it. Rot. Faint at first, then thicker. It didn't roll in on the wind. It dropped like someone had opened a trash bag full of meat right next to us. I gagged. Cal whispered, "You smell that?" Then came the sound. Not footsteps. Padding. Heavy. Measured. Like something walking upright, but smooth. Confident. No crunching underbrush, just a strange, deliberate cadence, like each step was placed exactly. I raised my rifle and scanned down the gully through the scope. I saw it after about 10 seconds. At first, it looked like a wolf. Big, shaggy. Too big, honestly. But it was standing. Not on its front paws, not crouched or leaning. It stood tall, back arched slightly forward like a man, head low. The fur was dark and slicked with blood. I could see it dripping from the jaw, glistening. Then I saw the antlers. At first I thought I was seeing things, but they were there, twisting out of its skull like a buck, thick, pale, bone-colored and jagged. Not symmetrical. Not right. Like someone had shoved them into a wolf's head just to be cruel. I whispered, "Cal, do you see it?" He was already aiming. "Yeah, what the hell is it?" The thing turned its head in our direction. Not just a glance. It twisted. Its whole upper body contorted as it sniffed the air. Its eyes glowed faintly in the moonlight, but it was the smile that did it for me. It grinned. It opened its mouth wide, way too wide for its skull, and let out this laugh. I don't know how to describe it right. It was a laugh, yeah, but also a screech. It sounded like a man trying to imitate a coyote while being choked. It bubbled and cracked like lungs full of water. It went on for too long, then stopped. Like a switch. My skin crawled. I've been in a lot of dangerous situations in my life. Nearly got caught in a bear den once. Had a cougar stalk me for 2 hours. This was different. This thing didn't feel wild. It felt wrong. Like it wasn't supposed to be here. It started walking toward us, still on 2 legs, still smooth. It moved like it had done this for years, but the limbs weren't made for it. Too long, too bendy, like a costume stretched over broken bones. "Shoot it," I said. Cal fired first. The crack echoed through the woods. The creature jerked and stumbled. I fired right after, hit it in the shoulder. I saw fur and blood fly off in the scope. It staggered. Then it laughed again, louder this time. And faster. Like it was excited. Then it ran. Not away, toward us. Cal cursed and fired again. I hit it once more in the leg, but it didn't stop. Just barreled straight up the ridge, snarling that horrible laugh rattling out of its mouth. We ran. We didn't talk. We didn't think. Just bolted back through the woods, the stink of rot growing thicker with every step. I could hear it behind us. Not right behind. Just close enough. Close enough to know we weren't getting away clean. We burst out onto the trail and toward the barn. Cal slammed the door behind us, and we braced it with everything we had, feed bags, a ladder, even the mower. Then silence. We stood there, panting, guns raised, listening. Then tap, tap, tap on the tin siding, high up, like it was walking around the roof. We didn't sleep. We sat in the dark with the lights off, rifles aimed at the door, that stench still leaking through the cracks in the walls. Every so often, we'd hear movement, scraping, tapping, slow dragging along the roof. It left before dawn. We waited until the sun was fully up to go outside. The ground was torn up with huge tracks, bigger than a bear, but shaped wrong, like if a deer's hoof had split wider, cracked through with claw marks. The coop was untouched. Nothing had died that night. But the trees, some of the trees had blood on them. High up, 10 feet, smears across the bark. We never saw it again. But that part of the woods, we don't go there now. Not after dark. Not with rifles. Not with a dozen men. I've been hunting and camping solo for years. I find something peaceful about being deep in the woods, away from roads, voices, and buzzing lights. It clears my head in a way nothing else does. That's why I took the trip last October. One last outing before the cold really settled in. The leaves had turned, the air had that crisp edge to it, and the trail I planned on hiking had just reopened after summer closures. I packed light. My rifle, a tarp tent, a small stove, just enough food for 2 nights. The plan was simple. Hike 6 miles in, find a clearing near the North Ridge, set up camp, and spend a day scouting for deer before packing out. Nothing unusual. I'd done harder trips. The forest in that part of the state is thick, mostly pine and oak, with the occasional sloping hills that make you feel like you're deeper than you are. I parked my truck at the trailhead just after noon. No other vehicles. I took that as a good sign. No hikers, no campers, no other hunters to spook game. Just me and the trees. The hike in was quiet. Birds called, squirrels darted across the trail. At one point, I saw a buck's trail in the mud, fresh tracks, wide and deep. It looked promising. I made it to the clearing by 3 p.m. and set up my shelter under a pine canopy that opened up to a slight overlook. It gave me a view of a slope that dropped into dense brush, exactly the kind of place deer like to bed down. I boiled water for my meal and drank coffee as the sun sank behind the trees. The stillness settled like a blanket. I remember feeling relaxed, safe even. I checked my watch. A little after 8 p.m., I zipped into my sleeping bag and let the ambient forest noise lull me. I woke up to crying. At first, I thought it was a dream. My ears tuned to it slowly, like adjusting a fuzzy radio. It was soft, wet, broken sobs. A woman's voice, close. I lay there frozen, heart hammering. No one was supposed to be out here. I turned over and looked at the wall of my tent. The moonlight outside made a faint silhouette of the trees against the fabric. No shadows, no movement. But the crying went on. Louder now, closer. I sat up slowly and reached for my rifle. Not that I thought I'd need it, but the sound, there was something wrong with it. It wasn't just sadness. There was a rhythm to it, too even, too deliberate, like someone pretending to cry. I whispered, "Hello?" It stopped, dead silence. Then I heard it, footsteps, slow, crunching leaves and snapping twigs. They circled the tent once. I held my breath. The steps were heavy, too heavy for a woman. They moved again, this time to the backside of the tent, then paused. Something pressed against the fabric, just the gentlest touch, like a palm. It slid down the wall slowly, like it was feeling the shape of me inside. Then it laughed. It wasn't a giggle. It was this low, scraping, wet noise, like someone gurgling and wheezing at the same time. It was high-pitched and wrong, almost like a recording of laughter slowed down and distorted. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I don't think I could. The thing, whatever it was, moved away after a while. I heard the footsteps fade into the trees. But I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I sat there, back against my pack, clutching the rifle, eyes wide, heart thudding. Nothing came back, just the still, dead silence of the forest. When the sky finally turned gray with dawn, I unzipped the tent and stepped out. There were no tracks, no signs of anything, but the smell of wet leaves and something faintly sour hung in the air. I packed up without eating. The hunt didn't matter anymore. The forest felt wrong, like it had seen something it didn't want to talk about. I took a shortcut back, one that cut through a low ravine with thick tree cover. I'd used it once before during early season bow hunts. As I hiked, I kept thinking I'd imagined it. Maybe I'd been dreaming. Maybe I was just paranoid. But around halfway back to the trailhead, I stopped. The woods had gone completely silent. No birds, no wind. Even my own footsteps felt muffled. Then my ears started ringing. Not just a faint tone, full, deep pressure, like being dropped underwater. I clutched my head and staggered. Then I heard it again, the crying. Only this time it was different. It was angry. The sobs were louder, faster, ripping through the trees. No sadness now, just rage, screaming rage. But it was still a woman's voice, still that same fake rhythm. Too smooth, too perfect. I bolted. I didn't think. I didn't check my bearings. I just ran, through brush, over rocks. Branches slapped my face. I stumbled, scraped my leg, but I kept going. Behind me, I heard something crashing through the forest, big, fast. It howled. A distorted, twisting wail that echoed and rebounded. It wasn't following the trail. It was breaking straight through trees, snapping limbs like twigs. I never looked back. The whole run, that crying never stopped. It got closer, then further, then close again, like it was circling. At one point, I swear I heard my own name. Right behind me, a whisper, Cameron. I made it to the trailhead with lungs burning, chest heaving, hands shaking so hard I almost dropped my keys. I didn't even toss my gear in the back. I just jumped into the truck and peeled out, gravel flying behind me. I didn't stop until I reached town. Even now, I haven't gone back. I left the tarp tent in the woods, left the trail behind. I even tossed the boots I wore that night, couldn't look at them without hearing the crying. And at night, I still dream about it. I wake up in the dark, heart pounding, ears ringing, convinced I hear a woman sobbing outside my window. And sometimes, just sometimes, I hear her laugh.